When Iran fired more than 300 missiles and drones at Israel earlier this month, it sent shockwaves across the world, waves of very real fear that the situation might escalate into a full-blown war in the Middle East. And while that fear has calmed somewhat, what we've seen this week is the rising prospect of North Korea-Iran ties, given that it looks like Iran used missiles tied to North Korea against Israel. Or should we say, tried to use, because things didn't quite go to plan. Here's what we know for sure. North Korea officially reported via state media Wednesday that it had sent an economic delegation to Iran the previous day, headed by Pyongyang's External Economic Relations Minister, who was also in Russia this month. This is the most senior level North Korean delegation to head to Iran in around 5 years. And with North Korean missiles and ammunition already widely reported to have been used by Russia in Ukraine, it's not such a leap to suggest that they might be discussing arms trade in Tehran. According to the US, North Korea and Iran have been cooperating in the missile and nuclear spheres since the 1980s, even if sanctions have aimed in more recent times to make such cooperation much more difficult. But they are both also accused by Washington of arming Russia in its war with Ukraine, despite repeated denials from Moscow, Pyongyang and Tehran. And now experts studying debris from a ballistic missile fired by Iran at Israel on April 13th have found it to be similar to North Korea's Nodong missile. And it may have been the basis for Iran's development of its own medium-range ballistic missiles. And that brings us full circle because North Korea is thought to have copied Russian missile technology acquired from Iran in the past. The problem for both Iran and North Korea is the effectiveness of their missiles versus their enemies. Half of the 120 ballistic missiles Iran fired at Israel reportedly failed to launch or crashed. And the CIA's director said in the US recently that only 4 or 5 of the more than 300 missiles and drones launched by Iran actually hit Israel, and even then without causing significant damage. So, not a great advert for Iran's missile capabilities and its association with North Korea. Yet the concern remains. What happens next? Could Russia, for instance, provide more powerful weapon technology to both Iran and North Korea? Could they build a coalition that would challenge the regional orders in the Middle East and Northeast Asia? North Korea is certainly pushing ahead with its own nuclear weapon development. Leader Kim-Jong-un's sister said Wednesday that the North will continue to stockpile its overwhelming and strongest military power. Her comments came in response to an alliance on the other side of that possible coalition I refer to, as the US, South Korea and Japan have been strengthening their own military cooperation, not to mention US support for Ukraine and Israel. And so we see how interconnected this all is, how North-South military tensions on the Korean peninsula can be tied to what's happening thousands of kilometers away.